Nowadays, who needs a stove? With Earth's temperature rising, I can simply cook a meal right out here.
Climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns. In particular, a change apparent from the mid to late 20th century onwards, and attributed largely to the increased levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide produced by the use of fossil fuels. In a world where we depend on technology for transportation, mass production of goods, and pretty much everything else, it's clear that we must find a balance between using fossil fuels and keeping the earth clean.
As a dinosaur, I can attest to the fact that there was heat waves and ice ages before humans arrived. So are they really as involved as we set them out to be? We decided to ask someone for their opinion on the matter.
Some scientists think that we are responsible for 50 or 75 or 80% of the climate change. Others are saying it's nowhere near 10%. But this is happening naturally. We can't pin down that number.
Although the percent of human involvement is not completely known yet, I think the effects speak for themselves. Let's take a closer look on the effects they have on animals. An example of an animal severely affected would be the polar bear. Due to the ice caps melting, they are left with less land to hunt as their prey is able to get into the water. For more input on the matter, we asked a local house cat for her opinion. So what are your thoughts on climate change? That's right. Animals don't have a voice on what happens to the environment. So that is why we must advocate for them.
If the fact that animals are so deeply affected by climate change isn't enough to get us involved for change, then maybe we need to remember that it also affects our own health.
Well, we all have bad hair days, but actually there are a lot of bad air days in the world right now. In cities like Delhi in the last 12 months, air pollution has been so bad it's equivalent to smoking 50 packs of cigarettes a day. Just a couple of months ago, we got the first ever really serious data that shows that 1 in 9 people worldwide die of air pollution.
Climate change is not only affecting the planet, but our ways of life. There is a higher possibility of death, and it's not just because of heat strokes.
Well, I mean, there are a number of risks that accumulate the more carbon dioxide we put in. More heat waves lead to more mortality, as we've heard from our other speakers. Sea level rise will be somewhat higher, under 2 degrees versus 1.5 degrees, and so that leads to more coastal flooding. And so, the most important thing to keep in mind, I would argue, is that to stabilize climate at any level, we need to get net global greenhouse gas emissions to 0.
Unfortunately, we haven't been able to lower emissions as much as needed for change. These high emission levels seem to correlate with the increase of CO2 levels in the atmosphere, which in turn is causing erratic changes in the weather all around the globe. Such changes include heat waves, tornadoes, and hurricanes.
Hurricane Center saying we're going to have a Category 5 for maybe a day or two. So watching this, the northern Leeward Islands, you're in trouble right now, unfortunately. We are dealing with a very strong, potentially dangerous storm.
But not every place has only tornadoes and hurricanes. So to find out what else happens to our world because of climate change, we decided to talk to an expert, an environmentals teacher.
Well, here in the Southwest, probably the longest term effect has to do with our water supply, because one of the effects of climate change can be drought, prolonged drought, and it's already starting to affect our water supply a little bit here in the Southwest.
As you can see, there's a lot of problems with our oceans and the earth in general. And if this is left untreated, then the conditions will only worsen.
Going back to our presidential election, this is a topic that should be addressed by our candidates. As stated by my partner Stephanie, the effects of climate change will only worsen if left untreated. Animals will continue to die off, as well as plants, and eventually we might die off as well. Some of the ways that presidential candidates can help reverse the effects of climate change is find better methods for energy sources and transportation.
Right now, we're sitting ducks. It's up to all of us to reverse the effects of climate change.